Hey guys, Ryan here from themoviesdeadworld.net, and I am running really behind on video reviews lately. I do all of my movie reviews on my blog first, and then I do the video reviews after that, but if I don't get time to do the video reviews, I don't get them up on a timely schedule. So the last one that I did was Sorceress, and I actually reviewed that quite a while ago, and now I'm trying to play catch up here and do a few reviews at a time. But the one that we're talking about today is Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of The Crush, and that film stars Alicia Silverstone as Adrian, an obsessed teenager who lives next door from a new reporter that's just moved in. His name's Nick Elliott, played by Cary Elwes, and he becomes the object of her obsession, and he kind of learns that she is not just the innocent young girl, 14 years old, who he at first thought she was. So this was 2 years before Alicia Silverstone was in The Babysitter, and so she's kind of moved into this territory where she's getting typecast as this sort of beautiful young girl who either is the object of obsession or is obsessing over someone else. So in general, those two films are pretty similar. They have the same themes, you know, and they're done a little bit differently, but really they're very similar when you think about it. Especially, you know, I just watched The Babysitter not too long ago, so just, you know, looking back, they do have a very similar scenarios that occur. Writer-director Alan Shapiro based The Crush off of a real-life experience, and so when he named the character in the film, he named it after the real girl, and I believe that her name was Darian, and so he was actually forced to change the name in The Crush to Adrian so that he didn't incur any you know, any legal battles because of that. So you'll notice that in this Scream Factory Blu-ray of the film, there's a lot of scenes where it seems like they're saying something else, and they're actually, what comes out of their mouth is Adrian. That's because it was overdubbed afterwards once the film had already been completed with the new name. So that's kind of noticeable. It's kind of a fun little trivia fact that you get, especially because Alan Shapiro gives a audio commentary on this film as well. So you kind of get that backstory as to not really so much what happened, but just that, you know, there was some legal obligations to change the name there. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit that you get thanks to Scream Factory's special features on here. But the film explores Adrian's growing obsession and fascination with Nick after he moves in next door. It's kind of an icky premise, and one that for the first part of the film, Cary Elwes' character Nick doesn't really push away. He kind of leads Adrian on a little bit, letting her come into his house without even knocking or asking if she can come in. So she kind of just is there when he gets out of the shower at one point. It's kind of a weird situation, and one that he allows. He doesn't really set any boundaries for that. So in the beginning, there's that issue of whether Nick is really leading Adrian on, if he kind of has a crush on her as well, despite the fact that she's only 14 and he's probably nearly 30 years old. So that's all a very, very kind of icky and squeamish premise that The Crush sets up. It's actually kind of interesting. I like feeling awkward, so I actually do enjoy that quite a bit. Shapiro documents the difficulties of proving innocence when that proof is difficult to come by, especially when it involves an underage and well-to-do teenager, since Alicia Silverstone's family is very rich, and they're not really willing to hear anything bad about their daughter. So, you know, one of the people that plays her father is Red from that 70s show, and so he kind of falls into that same sort of territory that he plays in that 70s show, and it just is really unwilling to accept the fact that his daughter could do anything wrong, that Adrian is anything but the sweetest little girl that, you know, plays classical piano music and does really well in school. So Kurtwood Smith, it's nice to see you in this film, and Scream Factory does give us commentary, not an interview really, with Kurtwood Smith as a special feature, he talks for about 11 minutes on working with Alicia Silverstone and what it was like to work on The Crush. Kind of nice to see him getting some love on a Scream Factory Blu-ray. So that's another nice feature that we get on this release. The Crush's scenario is fairly gross, to put it bluntly, especially when the film begins, because of those lack of boundaries with Nick. I mean, Alicia Silverstone sees him in a towel. She actually peers in through the hole in the bathroom so that she could see his butt real quick. We do get to see Cary Elwes' butt, or a stand-in. I'm not really sure. I think it was Cary Elwes actually that actually had the nude scene. Likewise, there's a scene where we do see Alicia Silverstone's butt, or in this case, it really was a stand-in. It wasn't actually her. So there's kind of that duality here. And there is a duality throughout The Crush where Nick kind of moves away from his, kind of slight little crush on Adrian after he realizes how terrible it would be for both of them and also his career and pretty much his entire life. But there's a lot of tension, both romantic and more appropriately shocking, as Nick and Adrian grow closer in that first act. He meets her parents. He kind of watches longingly as she plays on the piano. And in part, that's just him being impressed with her performance. But at the same time, he actually asks her to accompany him out on the beach in an inappropriate situation that's away from the party, away from pretty much everyone else. The Crush draws attention to Nick's actions, how he leads Adrian on, and as she very clearly continues to fall in love with him. And Shapiro doesn't want the audience to necessarily feel sympathy for Nick. I mean, really, he is one of the characters who's, he should know better, really. And some of the actual characters in there bring that up. It's even called attention to when his coworker and love interest, who, as the film progresses, her name is Amy, played by Jennifer Rubin, who, tidbit, she was in Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors. She shows up here. It's good to see her, not in her punk attire. She asked him directly if he's given Adrian any reason to think that there's a relationship going on with them. So he does want the audience to feel a little bit uncomfortable with that whole situation. It's kind of gross. That's what makes The Crush so interesting, though, despite its rather paint-by-numbers approach to the thriller genre, because really it's kind of like a Lifetime movie. There's many of them on Lifetime right now that are kind of the same sort of themes and ideas, but it puts a viewer in a difficult situation. The audience is forced to question whether they really feel bad for Nick, since he did play along with Adrian. Do we really feel bad for him? He's done this to himself. His uncomfortable leers at the beginning of the film, they fall away, though, as Adrian gets crazier. And that doesn't really excuse his behaviors, though. He has to take some responsibility for Adrian's stalker behaviors. But it doesn't stick with this for long. The second and third act find Adrian getting more desperate. She's attacking Amy in her dark room and putting a bee's nest. It's actually a wasp nest, but the actual what there is shown are bees. She puts that up to a fan grate, and so Amy, being locked into this area, can't get out. She's attacked by those wasps. And I mean, the escalation becomes chilling as Adrian feels more and more like she has to lash out and get the attention of Nick. So Shapiro draws attention to how easy it can be to ruin a life just by false accusations. I mean, is it attempting to excuse like the multiple sexual molestation and rape accusations that result in pointed fingers and victim blaming? Maybe in this story, it does use those Lifetime tropes of sleeping with the enemy, but it's also refreshing to see this kind of progressive plot, one that puts the male in the victim role, kind of reverses things a little bit, even though it's hard to feel particularly bad for Nick. Shapiro has good control of the plot, and The Crush builds to a thrilling climax that involves a carousel, a very angry Kurtwood Smith as Adrian's father, and a massive hook thrown by Nick. I mean, literally, Alicia Silverstone is rocketed off of this carousel. It's a hilarious moment, probably one of the funniest within the film itself, and maybe not supposed to be as funny as it is. But seriously, Cary Elwes must have a massive hook, because I've never seen a body fly like that through the air. It's great. It's almost like in Deadly Friend when the girl throws the basketball and her head explodes. That's the same kind of ridiculousness that you see in The Crush. And really, it does take away from the realism of it a little bit. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I did love that scene. I mean, The Crush still manages to be a convincing, suspenseful thriller throughout much of its running time. And Elwes and Silverstone are really on top of their game. There's a surprising amount of chemistry that should make audiences feel uncomfortable in and of itself because of that. But modern audiences will still fall in love with The Crush, especially because of that final climax. It's designed to make the viewer feel gross, to build up taboo topics like underage lust before it spirals out of control. And for the most part, despite its rather generic design, there's quite a bit to like about the film. From the actors to the violence, as Adrian loses her sanity. So Silverstone and Elwes make a great couple, just not in the romantic sense. And we don't really want to facilitate that at all, because he is 30 and she is 14. But really, I had never seen The Crush before, so I remember seeing it on like shelves. I remember the box art pretty clearly, but I never really knew what it was. I think the box art, I almost thought it was like a vampire film for a long time. I thought, like, you know, because of like the neon colors and things like that, it was going to be like a sort of Lost Boys or something. But no, it's not. And I actually I enjoyed it quite a bit. And I think that Scream Factory's done a pretty good job with this Blu-ray. The first thing that you'll notice is that they put a little disclaimer up before the film starts that there's a phasing issue with the audio portion of the film that they couldn't really get around. It's been a part of all of the releases for the film so far. It's a little bit noticeable. The dialogue sounds a little thin. Some of the background sounds sound really loud. And that's just because of that phasing issue, and there's really not much that could be done about it. And so at least Scream Factory gives us that disclaimer that, yes, they know about the phasing issue, but what are you going to do? I mean, they can't do anything about it. There's both 5.1 and 2.0 audio tracks to this. The 2.0 is a little less noticeable, but the phasing issue is still there. As for quality, the video quality is really good. There's no real noticeable issues with it. A couple of damage marks throughout, but other than that, nothing really big. It's in 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio, and there's a lot of color in this film. It's very surprising, and I think that this Blu-ray actually highlights those colors very well. So that's something to look for when watching the film, you know, just to see all of the color that's in it. There's a nice, really red tinted car that pops up about halfway through the film. It's only in its pristine condition for just a little while after Adrian scrawls some very dirty messages on it. But the red is very nice. The special features here, I talked about a little bit. There's not a ton of them. There's one from an interview with Kurtwood Smith, which I said before, about 11 minutes long. There's also an interview with Jennifer Rubin, who does talk a little bit about Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. So for everybody that's fans of that, she will mention it very slightly. And then, like I said before, there's an audio commentary track with both the director Alan Shapiro and Mondo Digital's Nathaniel Thompson, which is going to add a little bit more replay value as well. So really, this is a nice collection for The Crush. I wish there had been a few more, maybe some interviews or making of featurette, but at the same time, you know, you can't ask for everything, and I'm sure that like Alicia Silverstone wouldn't come back to talk about it and stuff like that. So they did what they could, and at least they got those couple of interviews there. So really, you know, definitely worth a look if you have seen The Crush, or even if you haven't. You know, it's a pretty good film. I gave the film itself an 8, and also the special features an 8, which averages out to an 8. So definitely check it out. Nice little classic from the 90s. 90s music, a very handsome Cary Elwes, Butts, and Alicia Silverstone. Thanks for watching. I will be back next time, and by next time I mean hopefully still today, with another video review, this time of the Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of the remake of Cabin Fever, which I will give you a little hint here, not as good as Eli Roth's original. Definitely suffers from a lot of things that could have been prevented had they just changed the plot entirely. But more on that in the next video review. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll subscribe. Hope you'll give this video a like. Check out themoonisiddeadworld.net and come back next time, please. Thanks for watching. Leave us a comment if you have any suggestions, and let us know what you thought about The Crush. I say us, but I really mean myself. So thanks for watching. Subscribe and like and all that good stuff, and we'll catch you next time.